Stars shining bright above you. Night breezes seem to whisper, I love you. Birds singing in the sycamore tree. Dream a little dream of me. Welcome kindreds, it's Jessica the Story Witch, and this video is going to be about menstruation. It's kind of linking into the blood magic video which I did a couple of months ago now, and in that video I talked a little bit about how I like to use reusable rather than disposable menstrual products. So this video is kind of like, a few people asked me about that in the comments and stuff, and I said I would make a video on mindful menstruation, so that is what this video is going to be. The reason that this video needs to be made is that kind of menstruation still, even now to this day, is kind of a taboo subject. We're supposed to kind of hide the fact that we even have periods, you know. It's part and parcel, I feel, of a kind of patriarchy. A significant number of the population every month, or however their cycle falls, will be bleeding, but to all intents and purposes the outside world is just not supposed to know about that. The women trying to hide their bleeding, the people trying to hide when they're bleeding, have had to kind of literally buy into, because the disposable menstrual products industry is a massive multi-billion-dollar industry, you know, and it's spreading as well to other parts of the world, into less developed countries and things as well. It's a massive market. And even though we're kind of getting much more aware of disposable things in terms of like plastics and you know, like drinking straws and things like that, and even like stuff we put on our faces and bodies, you know, still tampons and menstrual products in general are still taboo, and they're still something which we don't have chance to talk about very much. So I want to change that. I might even make this video a hashtag, actually. Yeah, perhaps I will. Let's get on with it anyway. When I first, I remember, I don't remember when I first learnt about periods and bleeding, and you know, there's all the different names and words that people come up with talk about it instead of saying blood, you know. And when you watch the adverts for like tampons and pads and things, then they don't use blood to demonstrate how absorbent things are, you know. They usually use like a blue liquid or something, which is like, what the fuck, you know, blood's not blue. Well, mine that comes out of me certainly isn't anyway. So yeah, it's all because we're supposed to feel kind of dirty about it, and we're supposed to feel, it's still harking back, you know, to thousands of years ago, and I guess obviously still more recently, because we're still having it now, where women who were menstruating, people who were menstruating, were considered unclean. And just a little note on that, I know I am invariably going to say women, because it is mainly women who menstruate, but I know obviously that if you're a transgender, you may still have menstrual cycles and things as well. So I'm not meaning to exclude anyone or make anyone feel, you know, that they are excluded basically from this. But this is obviously, I'm going to be talking about menstrual products. So the likelihood is the people who are watching are people who have menstrual cycles. So I will, like I say, I will say women probably most of the time, but I don't mean to be excluding anybody in saying that. So yeah, I remember, I think I was about sort of 12 years old when the Tampax lady came to my school, and we were all, my whole year, all the girls, not the boys, because of course boys don't need to know anything about periods. The girls were all bundled into the kind of assembly hall, and then we were basically shown propaganda about how Tampax were the best thing to use, because God forbid anyone should know that you're having a period, so you don't want anything that's at all bulky, or anybody might be able to know that you're bleeding, even though it's a completely normal physical function. They gave us like sample Tampax, and they gave us a little like click down box to keep our Tampax in, that were, you know, it was all about being discreet, because you know how humiliating, how awful if anybody knew that you were bleeding, even though this is an experience that all of these other people go through. And so that was kind of my first introduction to the kind of thou shalt not speak about menstrual blood. And I think that is a pretty standard, and some people have even far worse, you know, experiences that. They remember their menarche, their first period, as being a really traumatic experience. Perhaps they didn't know what was happening to them, or it was like, oh, now that started to happen to you, what a nightmare, you know, the curse is now upon you. You have to just try and deal with it and make as little fuss about it. And please do not soil anything with your blood. You know, you must never spill blood on beds or, you know, leak or anything like that. It's like, I found when I was doing a bit of Googling and stuff, just checking some facts and things for making this video, I came across an article on The Guardian online where they had an interview from somebody from, it was Procter and Gamble. They asked for interviews from a couple of the kind of big manufacturers of sanitary products, but lots of them had declined to speak to them. But the woman from Procter and Gamble did speak to them. She's their communications manager for feminine care, and I'll include this quote so you can find the link to it if you want to as well. It says, "We know that women make this personal choice based on their own comfort and discretion needs," Berry said. "The feminine care category is about protection and confidence that the product will perform and not leak. We have learned over and over again that women will not make a trade-off in these areas." And there were a few things that jumped out to me about that. Obviously, if you're using a product, you don't want it to you want it to do what it's supposed to do, and the products I'll be showing you very much do that. So that is kind of what the industry are trying to sort of say, oh well, you can use these kind of hippie dippy products, but they aren't going to work, and everyone's going to know that you're having, you know, that you're bleeding and stuff. So they're trying to kind of cut it off from there. But also the fact that people call it, and this is kind of standard across the industry, they call it sanitary protection, you know, as if it's some kind of form of armour or something that must not be penetrated, for want of a better word. You know, it is like the language that we use around menstruation and menstrual products is so interesting and so telling of what is actually the agenda here. You know, it is, you know, we're supposed to think it's dirty, it's something you need to protect against. You mustn't let anybody else know that you are menstruating, because it's shameful, basically. You should be ashamed. And that has made people, many people, feel deeply ashamed. And what about all those boys when we were in that thing, you know, who had no clue what on earth was going on, and they had to then kind of figure things out from things people would tell them, because God, you know, the girls weren't going to say anything because they'd just been told that this was the most embarrassing thing in the world, and the last thing you want to do is anyone to know about it, particularly any boy that you might be interested in, you know. So it's just, the whole thing is completely fucked up, you know. So this, I am, like I said, I'm going to talk about products and things as well, but my bigger message, I guess, is that menstruation is not at all a shameful thing. You know, it's awful I should even need to say that, but I'm part of we've got a red tent in Caerphilly, which me and a friend kind of co-organise, and the red tent more generally is a kind of movement that's sweeping across the whole world, really. It was sparked off by a book by Anita Diamond, who like in the early 90s, I think, may have been a little bit earlier than that, called The Red Tent, where basically women, it's kind of like it's fiction, and like I don't totally love the book, actually, and I'll probably do a review of it at some point because there's some dodgy stuff in there as well, but that idea really caught on with women of like that. Yes, let's not all be like we're supposed to be under patriarchy, like bitching about each other and stabbing each other in the back. Let's actually use that kind of solidarity and that connection and get together when we're menstruating, and we can, it's a powerful time then, you know, not a shameful time. So red tents have been kind of popping up all over the place, and you don't need any sort of special qualifications or anything to start one. So if you're interested in doing that, I'll probably do some kind of info on red tents in general, but you should also look at Molly Reamer. I know I mentioned Molly many times. That's because she's awesome. And also Rachel Moontime's Rachel, I think it's Rachel Crow, who I'll talk about in a bit as well, because she's the person I tend to buy my reusable sanitary products from. And yeah, there's lots and lots of people online. Deanna Lamb is another person, and you know, it's going for all stages of women's life now, so it's not just for menstruating people. It is also for people going through menopause and going through sort of life changes and things like that. It's a really safe place. You know, and if you were not natally born a woman, you would still be welcome as a woman coming to the space as well. So it is a it's a place where people are getting together and they are talking about things, and so there has been a bit more of a surge, I think, in interest in different options, because people are talking to each other and saying, actually, I'm not happy about this. I want to know what chemicals and things that are in this tampon that I'm shoving into my vagina. You know, it is something which is, I think things are changing, and this video is part of my wanting to be part of that change as well. So did I cover all that a bit? Oh, I've got a few stats for you. This is the science bit. Not really sciencey, and my hair doesn't really swish like that, but you might not even know that advert. But yeah, basically the average menstruating person will use 11,000 tampons in the life of their menstruation, if that is, you know, what they use, and more than 100 million people worldwide are using tampons. So if you do the math with that, that is a pretty vast amount of tampons in the environment, which each tampon takes longer than that person's lifespan to actually biodegrade. So, you know, it doesn't even bear thinking about. There's a group on Facebook actually called The Bloody Waste, and maybe that would be good for the hashtag, actually, The Bloody Waste, hashtag The Bloody Waste. Maybe we'll do that. And they're kind of just trying to raise awareness of this from a kind of eco point of view as well, you know, that it is, it's just a really awful, massive, vast amount of waste that just does not need to be generated. And that is not even taking into consideration the fact that tampons are still not that popular in comparison with pads. Pads globally are much, much more. So that's, you know, if you added pads as well to that, we're talking just like tons and tons and tons and tons of bloody waste, you know, that is not biodegrading, and which is it's just not sustainable, you know. So that's another factor as well, you know. It's a factor that we should have choice in these things, and that we shouldn't feel shamed. We should be able to talk about these things. There's also the environmental impact of the choices that we do make. Yeah, and so yeah, let's do, like, I think we will, The Bloody Waste. Let's talk about it like that, so I can hashtag that. So if you wanted to make your own video about your experiences and what you use and things, maybe, then you could use that hashtag as well. So I don't expect it to be like a massive because it is still very taboo, which is awful, but it is something that I feel like the only way we're going to change that is by talking about it. So so yeah, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. I'll add all the links to everything I mentioned. I'll try and make sure that I've linked everything down below so you can follow things up. That's another point that I've got on my notes. I'm just kind of scanning here as well now, is that also, because tampons are classed as medical rather than kind of like a consumable thing, they are also seen as non-essential, which means that they are, you probably would have seen like marches and things about this, you know, they are seen as non-essential items, even though on the one hand we're supposed to be shamed and, you know, awful if anybody should ever know that we're menstruating, and on the other hand they are non-essential items, so they are bloody expensive because tax can be added onto them, VAT can be added onto them, because they are seen as non-essential items. So it is, and another thing about that is because they are medical rather than like a consumer product, the people who make them, the really big massive companies who make them, do not have to disclose the ingredients, which are I say ingredients, it's a bit of a weird term, but like the kind of constituent parts of the tampons and things. Like when you think this is something that you're inserting inside you, and they've got all sorts of things that you really would probably prefer not to, well, I certainly would prefer not to put into my vagina. So yeah, that's another whole side of the coin as well. So yeah, I think that was all I wanted to say about the kind of political side of it. It is definitely changing. Things are changing because women are not going to take this anymore. And so there's things popping up. It's mainly small businesses and stuff who are making lots of these options, but obviously if it becomes something which more and more women are interested in, then obviously the big businesses are going to jump on the bandwagon as well. So let's talk about the different options then if you aren't going to use tampons anymore, or if you aren't going to use disposable pads anymore. And I'm not judging anybody for using these things. I totally understand. It is convenient, you know, it is, and if you do feel still ashamed and embarrassed about having your period, then those things make it very easy to be discreet. And it's hard to kind of try something new because, like, what if it doesn't work? What if it leaks? You know, people do have those concerns. I understand that. So there's no judgment here. I'm just trying to share other possibilities, which and like how the pros and cons basically of how, because I've tried quite a few things, and I can let you know my thoughts on them. And if you've tried things as well, then mention it in the comments, because then other people can read the comments and see what other people are getting on with as well. You know, I know from my red tent, the more and more people in the red tent, because they've actually talked to like real life people who are using these different products, and it's not just like some weird hippie on the internet, they feel more confident with using them. And I've actually found people are generally finding like their periods are lighter using these products, and also like they're not getting as many other symptoms and things, which some people have said is because of the chemicals and things which are in the mass-produced products, which obviously aren't in the non-mass-produced products. So yeah, I won't waffle on any more than that. I can see I'm already on like 17 minutes. Let's jump into actually showing the stuff that we've got. So the kind of most standard kind of basic thing, and these were the things that have come out kind of first of all, is what people call CSP, which is cloth sanitary products. That just stands for. There's a few different, there's masses of companies. I say companies, it's mainly work at home mums or work at home people making these products. So as well as it being much more environmentally friendly, you're also supporting like small local businesses and stuff when you do this as well. Really easy to find people who do this local to you. And the person I buy my things off, Rachel at Moon Times, she's actually got she's given me a 10% discount code to give to you guys if you want to buy stuff from her. This is not sponsored or anything like that. I buy my stuff from her, usually, some of the things anyway, and that's how I know her. And if you're abroad, you know, like if I'm in the UK and Rachel's also in Wales, so it's easy for me to buy from her. But if you're like in Canada or US or New Zealand or Australia and stuff like that, you know, it's best to find somebody who's near you who's doing it, because there will be somebody doing it. So this is what a panty liner looks like, and it's quite thin, and it's got poppers. And it just does up, you know, exactly the same as like a pad with wings. That's basically what it looks like. It's a pad with wings. You can, and also if you're nifty with like a sewing machine and stuff, then you could totally make your own of these. You wouldn't have to buy them. They're quite straightforward to make, and you can use different fabrics and things according to how thick you want to make it and stuff. So that's just like a panty liner. So that hasn't got, you can't stuff that or anything. It's like solid here, and that would be useful for like if you're having a very light bleeding day, or if you are using something else like a moon cup or something, which I'll talk about in a bit, and you just want like a little bit of extra just in case. That would be handy. And then you can also get pads, which are and you can get all sorts of pretty ones of these as well, and these are ones that I have got, which have got like these are also from Rachel at Moon Time. These are organic cotton, and it's the same sort of idea, the pad which you pop her on, but instead of it being I'm doing it the wrong way, I'm popping it around like that, instead of it being sewn up, it has got a pocket in the middle in here so that you can put inserts into it. So there's another one there as well, so you can get them in all different, you know, they're really pretty. You can buy them in all cute designs and things like that. I tend to prefer just the plain cotton ones just because I like that, but you can get all sorts of different colours and cool stuff and things like that. And then you get these like little inserts which you can either use, they're out of different fabrics, so you can get like bamboo, and if you're into cloth nappies, none of this will be at all weird for you because you'll already understand about things like bamboo being like absorbent and antimicrobial and things like that. So it's exactly the same as with cloth nappies. It's different fabrics have got different properties, so you can have microfiber, you can have natural materials, things like that, and you can layer these up so you can make like a much thicker pad, and then they just insert into the pocket here like that, and then you've got your pad, and that then just poppers around your pants like that, so your pants are in there. And there is your pad, and it is no different, you know, it's still got the wings, no different from a disposable pad, apart from the fact that it's not going to go into landfill after you've finished using it. And then once you have used it, you can just swap these if you wanted to, like because this tends to just kind of leak through this bit into these. That's what the idea of it is. So this bit kind of like wicks it away from you, so you stay kind of dryish on there, and then these are what is actually going to be absorbing. So you could just swap those, or you can just swap the whole thing. You know, I tend to just swap the whole thing. You can, and then what you do with the dirty ones, I should have brought a little bag. I got like a little wet bag, the same as you'd use for nappies, which you just pop the dirty ones into. If you're out and about, you can pop the dirty ones in there and just zip it up and take them home with you. Or if you're in the house, the easiest thing to do is just to have like a little pot with a lid, which you can just pop them into, and then at the end of the day you can just rinse them out and you just put them in the washing machine as normal. So if it's going to gross you out, you could put them through on their own separate wash if you prefer to do that. And you can keep them, if you've got them in a container with a lid, then they won't smell or anything. You can keep them for a few days like that. You can put a couple of drops of essential oil in if you want to. Some people soak them, like wet soak them, so you can have them in water. I tend to rinse mine, and so I like rinse them out, and then I will just pop them in the like usually in my zip bag or in like a sealed pot, and then I just put them through the wash with the rest of our normal washing. And I've used these, and it would be quite hard to tell. There's a very, very slight staining on that one, but if you hang them out in the sun, if you peg them up in the sun, then the stains usually disappear if you have got any stains. I haven't done anything special, any stain removing or anything like that, nothing like that. They literally just go through my wash, normal wash, 30 or 40 degrees. I'm not talking like a hot wash or anything here, just a normal wash. So you'll find lots of variations on a theme with these. You can get like much, because like some people would be like, there's no way that that would absorb. If you've got a very heavy flow, there's no way that that would be absorbent enough. So you can get ones that are much thicker, which look much more like the very thick pads that you can buy, the disposable pads that you can buy. So yeah, have a look around and see what's there, okay? Those are really reliable, you know, no leaks, things like that. They work really well. The slight faff with them is obviously washing them, but really if you're going to be washing it anyway, it's really, really not at all a big deal. Okay, if that seems like too much faff for you and you're somebody who normally uses tampons and finds that convenient, then you might prefer, hang on, and I showed this in my B is for Blood video. This is a moon cup, or a menstrual cup is the kind of generic name for them. And then in the UK, they tend to be called moon cups. I think in the US, they tend to be called diva cups. So these are made of silicone, and that's it, nothing else. And they tend to have like a little tail on them, first of all, which is supposed to be like for you to be able to more easily remove it. And as you can see, it's a cup. This is the slightly larger size because there's two sizes. There's one size for smaller vaginas. Oh, that just tickled me then, sorry. And then the other side is for if you have a larger vagina. Basically, if you've had children, you tend to have to go for this size. So this is the bigger one, like I said. I don't think they're so much bigger in capacity, but they're just like they're not quite as wide in the rim for the smaller ones. So so yeah, a few different brands, so you can try, and these are becoming a bit more popular because people are really latching onto these already. They're finding they're really good. And all you do is you kind of fold it like that, so it makes it kind of insertable. And if it's a little bit tricky to insert, it's fine, especially if you're already bleeding, because it'll be liquidy to be able to put it inside anyway. But you can just wet it if it feels a little bit awkward, just with water, and then you just insert it, and once it's in, it just goes and will stay there and catch everything. And then when you want to change it, you just gently pop your finger in and break the seal, and then just take it out. It does take a little bit of practice, and I think the guarantees and things on these, they usually say that it's like a 3 months of trying it, and if you don't like it after 3 months, then they will give you your money back, because there is a little bit of a learning curve of like putting it in, taking it out and stuff. But once you've kind of got to grips with that, then it is so simple. And once you take it out, obviously it's got blood in it. If you're at home, then all you do is literally tip it down the sink or down the toilet, whichever you prefer, or collect it if you're going to be using it for blood magic, like I was on about in the other video. And then you just rinse it out with water and then pop it back in. Simple. The only time I had a little bit of a, I was like, oh, okay, when I was using this was when I went to a wedding a couple of years ago, and there was no toilet with a sink in the toilet. It was like public toilets where it was lots of cubicles, and then you had to go and use the sink outside, you know. And I hadn't really thought about that before when I was popping it in, because it was the first time I'd kind of worn this out when I was going out there. And so I had to take it out, and I tipped it down the toilet, and then I just kind of held it in my hand, and I went out and I washed my hands, and I washed it out there, and then I pop back in the toilet and put it back in. So it can easily be done, but yeah, it's kind of easier. And if you are worried about it being discreet, you know, you can, if you go, usually there's like a disabled toilet or something that you can use, or you can find a toilet which has got a sink in it, which is perfect. So so yeah, that's the Moon Cup. And they last, I think they say 10 years, so you know, it's going to be fine. People worry about leaking with these, and I have found in the night sometimes they leak, because I think sometimes if you're moving around in the night, you know, sometimes you might break the seal, and I personally, I don't like to use inserted products that often. I only use them if I need to use them. So like if I'm going swimming or somewhere where I would feel awkward with having a pad or something, then I'll use this. So yeah, that's I'm conscious that this video is going to be really long already, so I'm trying to kind of speed up a little bit. So if I don't answer any questions you might have and stuff, then pop them down below and I'll answer them in the comments. So on the same lines as that, and this is something that I haven't tried yet, which I'm excited to try. It is a jam sponge, which is natural sponge, sea sponge, and you just dampen it, which makes it really soft, and then you just insert it and it will absorb the blood. So very similar idea to the Moon Cup, except I can see why people might worry a little bit more about this leaking. Like I said, I haven't tried this yet. This is a kind of new thing for me, but I was intrigued to try it because I like that it's a natural product and not like a mass-produced product so much like that one. So yeah, something that I'm going to be trying out anyway. And was that it? Oh, no. The other thing that I use, and that is supposedly good for night times and things as well, because however you kind of wiggle around, that should still stay, you know, it's not like a seal that can be broken. It's obviously there absorbing, and you could use a pad as well then in case there were any leaks or anything like that. And like, you know, if you leak, you leak. It's not the end of the world. You can just wash your sheets. You know, it's just blood. You know, it's not a big deal. So, but I'm saying that because I want people to know it's not a big deal. But generally, I have not found any issues with leaking using these products as opposed to using mass-produced disposable products. So these are just as good, you know, and it's with the same with that, you just rinse it out and then reuse it. These, which is a new thing for me. I've been using these for about 6 months, I think now. And these are Thinks pants. But I think this is going to be a big thing. There's already a few other companies starting to do them. And they're basically period pants, which sounds bonkers, but they reckon these pants can hold the equivalent of 2 tampons worth. I'll show you how they're like special fabric, which again wicks away the moisture. Then it's got like a core layer in here which holds on to the moisture, so it does take it away from you and it holds it in that layer. Super thin. They look, I mean, these are obviously massive ones because I bought a big style, you know, that comes like right up to my waist. But there's different ones as well. You don't have to go, they've got ones that are like hip huggers, which are like that as well. And they do them in a few different colours and things now too. And if you're in America, they aren't that expensive. It was expensive for me because of the postage to the UK. But there's already a lady in the UK who's doing them, the woman who does cheeky wipes, which is somebody I came across when I was researching reusable nappies for my children. So I'm going to try a pair from her as well to see how they compare. Now, it says they hold 2 tampons worth, and I think that's probably true if that 2 tampons worth was bled evenly through the whole section. Obviously, you don't bleed like that, do you? You tend to bleed more in one spot than in others. So they're useful for, you know, like light days. I have a few days at the beginning and like one day at the end of my period, which is a much more light day. I'm definitely bleeding, but it is not a deluge. So these are ideal for that. You just literally put them on as normal pants and then you put them in the wash as normal pants. If you were a bit heavier than you expected, you could rinse them before you put them in the wash. But that's it, done. You know, it's just pants. And people seem to feel happier about popping them in the wash than they do about the CSP, the cloth sanitary products. So lots of options, and I think there's only going to be more and more options becoming available as more and more of us speak out and look for these different things. So at the moment for my period, what I tend to do is I will use these for those light days. I've got 3 pairs of these, so I do that for a few days. And then when I get my heavy days, I tend to either use my moon cup or I will use like a good few layers in the cloth sanitary products. And I will sometimes, if I'm going somewhere where it's going to be inconvenient to be able to wash these, if I'm not going to be able to wash them, like if I'm going on holidays or something like that, I will still buy disposable products. But I will choose ones which are not using bleach, you know. I definitely wouldn't use a tampon or anything like that. But I would, you know, there's definitely better options you can choose amongst the mass-produced options as well. So have a little look what's available to you. And obviously then I'm still using those products sometimes, but I know like out of the vast majority of the time I'm not using disposable products. So I still feel, you know, I feel like that's an okay balance for me. And perhaps in the future I won't need to use them at all, you know. It's only the washing. I think if I like to use the moon cup all the time, then I would just use that while I was away or whatever, and that would be totally, you know, totally doable. So yeah, that is all of the options that I've got currently at the moment. There are other things around as well, like I said, and I think I will make it into a tag. So if you want to talk about this, or if you've got any more questions and things as well, then I'm going to do a hashtag the bloody waste. Tell me what you use and what your concerns are maybe about using things like this, or perhaps you're already ahead of me with using these things. You know, you found really cool suppliers, or you've got somebody you know who makes really gorgeous cloth pads, and we can tell everyone about it, because that's the way that things change. So yeah, I'll leave it there. I'll link everything that I've spoken about down below and where you can get all these things from. Yeah, I'll leave it there, like I said, because it's getting really, really long. Warmest blessings, guys. Thanks so much for watching. This is really, really important. Spread the word. Share this with your friends, you know, who might be interested, with your daughters, you know. Let's make our bleeding times good times. Oh, one last thing that I want to say about that whole not you know, being ashamed about your period. I actually wear special jewellery when I am bleeding. I don't like sort of tell everyone this is my special period jewelry, you know, but I wear it and I allow myself to have that kind of downtime if I need it, you know. I know that's hard if you're working and you've got to kind of just get along with things, but if you do special things for yourself, and that's probably going to be another whole video, I guess. I probably should have done a whole series on this because there's so much to do, but yeah, I'll leave it there. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Warmest blessings, and I will see you very soon.